Here's a story. This is a story, as I understand, the story was in the time of the third Rebbe of Chabad, I think. Third Rebbe, fourth Rebbe. In any case, Russia was always involved in wars or about to be involved in wars. And they always had this big standing army, big standing navy, and they always lost. They were always losing, and all their soldiers were getting killed right after that. In any case, however it was, there was a long time in Russia that the army was the tool for wiping out Judaism. The Russians were very, very religious people, very religious. There's a religion, it's called Russian Orthodox, and they were everyone in Russia was religious. The king was religious, the priests, they were the intelligentsia. Everyone was religious. There was no such thing as a non-religious person, except for the Jews. The Jews, they didn't believe in their belief, but everybody was a Russian Orthodox, except for the Jews. I guess maybe some places that were also Muslims, but the main problem was the Jews. So they would conscript boys into the army at very, very young age, and there's a lot of stories about this. The Cantonists, they're called. But this is not a story about this. This is a story about a young man that he received a draft notice. And he received this draft notice. His parents were very rich. And his father said, I can arrange that you go to a draft board where I can bribe the people in this. Even though it's a little bit dangerous, if he gets caught, then the whole family will get thrown in jail. And maybe even worse. So the young man said, and the draft notice said that he has to go to the draft board. I think it was in Petersburg. In any case, some town, Petersburg. And his parents saw this and they shook. Because Petersburg was terrible. There were tremendous anti-Semites over there. And everyone, if a Jew went in, he could be blind and crippled and old and everything. They would take him into the army. Didn't make any difference. There was no exemptions. So his father said, listen, I have some friends. I can get the venue. I can get it changed to another place. And there I have friends. Maybe, though you can get through. They'll stamp you, they'll let you through. So he said, no, I'm going to go to the Rebbe. He went to the Rebbe. I think the Rebbe was the Tzemach Tzedek. So he went to the Rebbe, the third Rebbe of Chabad. And the Tzemach Tzedek said, you should go to the draft board in Petersburg. It'll be okay. You don't have to worry. So he went back to his parents, and his father said, I got good news. I spoke to some of my friends, my non-Jewish friends, and I'm going to have to pay a lot of money, but I think it's going to work. He says, no, I'm going to Petersburg. His mother was crying, and his father was enraged. What are you talking about, all this effort I made? And his mother said, no, they're going to take you into the army. I'm losing my son, everything like that. He said, listen, that's what the Rebbe told me. That's what I'm going to do. And so it happened to be that the time when he was supposed to go in was on Shabbat. That's the way I understood the story. So he went on Shabbat. Of course, he arrived in the town. There was in Petersburg, there were Chabad people that lived there. So he went by one of these Chabad people. And he told them that he's got to go to the draft board. So he's going to go there early in the morning. He has to be like at 12 in the afternoon or something. So the person where he stayed by said, okay, sure, you can stay by my house and you'll pray here. You won't pray in the synagogue, you can pray here. And, eat something and then you'll go, really early in the morning. So it was, they prayed in the nighttime, it was very nice. And in the daytime, this young fellow, as he wakes up at like 5 in the morning, starts praying. And his host wakes up a little bit later, says, what are you doing? He says, oh, you forgot, I'm praying. I'm going to go to you have to learn Chassidut first. You have to learn some Chassidut. We're Chassidim. You can't just go running around there. You have to learn Chassidut. You have to learn who you're praying to. You have to be aroused. To start to think. I said, okay, you got a good point. So they learned Chassidut together. They were going to learn for a half an hour, but they learned for an hour. And then they started to pray, and they took a little bit longer than their prayers. And he said, okay, I got to go. He said, what do you mean to go? You have to eat something. So he ate something, and it's like 3 hours away to get to the draft board, right? So he's eating, he's looking at the watch all the time. Let's make a couple of l'chaims, let's make take a couple of drinks. And so they got really involved in sort of, talking about God and singing and everything. All of a sudden he looked and said, it's an hour and a half until 12 o'clock. I have to be there at 12 o'clock. They close, the draft board closes at 12, at 12:15, whatever it is. I have to be there at 12 o'clock. It closes at 12:30. Anyway, I have to be there at 12 o'clock. What am I going to do? I'm going to be an hour and a half late. He says, listen, don't worry about it. I know a shortcut. And let's go. But you're right. It's really getting late. Let's go. They made the blessing after eating. They run down they're going through backyards and over bridges and through forests and things like that. And they arrive. They get there 5 minutes before 12. They get 5 minutes before 12. They open up the door and there's nobody there, right? Only it's a huge room. And there's these tables, big tables arranged, let's say 10 tables on each side of this big hall, 10 tables spaced apart, and behind each table, behind each desk, is sitting this like really mean looking secretary or something. So by the time they open up the doors and they get in, it's like 1 minute after 12. Now, it just so happened that all these people that were there, they figured that they're going to go home early. They figured he's not going to come and that they're going to go home early. But now they're going to have to process him. He's the last one. They're going to have to process him. So as soon as he comes in, he opens up the door and he's standing there like right in the middle, and all these, these people after and behind their desks, they'll look, and there's also the other, the other secretaries and servants and runners and boys. And they open up the doors. There's a lot of noise, and they're talking to each other, and they're laughing. Open up the door, and they're standing there. Suddenly, the place becomes quiet for about 10 seconds, and suddenly all these people just start screaming and yelling and cursing out these two Jews and against the Jews and screaming, yelling at them. And they're going to have to stay now. We figured they'd have, another half an hour off. So one person, I guess he's like the doorman or something. He stands and he says to everyone, listen, we're just wasting our time. The law is that if someone comes in, if he's less than 5 minutes late, we got to take him. And so we have to take him, got no choice. Everybody sit behind your desks. So they all sit behind their desks. And he goes, what's your name? His name is, Boruch Ivanovich. Says, okay, they find his papers. Give him his papers. This big guy, the doorman, just lifts him up and takes him from desk to desk. Just lifts him up, takes him from desk to desk. And the person behind the desk, instead of testing him and giving checks and checking his pulse, checking his eyes, checking his this, giving him an intellect, IQ test, they just stamp on his papers, disqualified. He takes him from place to place, disqualified. That's all, he's disqualified. He says, takes him and opens up the door and throws him out in the street. So this young man is looking, he's amazed. He's out. He's disqualified. Right? He can't believe it. So he takes the papers, whatever it is, and he hides them. He can't carry on Shabbat. He hides them somewhere else. And suddenly he realizes what was going on over here. If he would have gone to another draft board, it's a doubt if it would have worked or not. If it wouldn't have worked, then it would have been bad for him and his whole family, his parents and everything, because they bribed an official. But now the Rebbe sent him to specifically the worst place that a Jew could go, where these people are so anti-Semitic they couldn't stand the sight of a Jew. And exactly that is what got him exempt from being in the army. So sometimes we see that what seems to be bad is really the best there can possibly be. Have a good day with Mashiach. Now, God willing, tomorrow at 8:15 in the morning. Shalom Uvracha.